Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Grassroot Chats. Play to the whistle. I'm back, people, and I actually chose the very, very wrong week to come back. However, if you like what you hear, like what you see, please subscribe, hit that follow button on YouTube channel and all our social media at grassrootchats.com. Okay, people, the running order today is very, very simple. We are going to talk about the very obvious problems in Man United. We're doing some player ratings of all the players that actually played yesterday. We're also going to talk about Arsenal and how things seem to be improving. And we look at Chelsea versus Tottenham and every other game in the Premier League this weekend. With me in the studio, of course, is Neil, the Sheffield Wednesday Hinder, and the Leeds and Bournemouth man that has no idea which team to actually support, Big Dunk. The Angry One and Big Steve, we have no idea where they are. We wish them all the best. They're probably celebrating, I think, in Arsenal has won the league, even if they're second on the table. All right, let us start, ladies and gentlemen. Big Dunk. I'm going to ask you. I mean, it's so obvious what's happening at Man United in terms of people. Some people pointing the Glazer, some people pointing the manager. Gary Neville almost crying and having a fight with Jamie Redknapp. That was funny. However, let's look at it this way. Straight question: what is happening with the board and happening with the management? Should it affect the players on the pitch? Is it that bad?
Well, we were talking the same about Chelsea, weren't we? And Chelsea don't seem to be doing too bad. I guess they got the new owners now, and even when they had their issues last season regarding the takeover, they still finished. Where did Chelsea finish? Third. So it didn't seem to affect them as much. Just a couple of alarm bells for like at Man U this week. I would say one of the big ones for me would be the team selection by Ten Hag. You've got to question: is he doing it on purpose? Like people are trying to double guess him now, saying is he doing it on purpose? Is he picking the same team that did really badly last season to show the board like how bad they are? Because
the same team though last season is actually the best 11 Man United has at the moment, and then you could probably with an improved player in Christian Eriksen. So in terms of picking a team, I don't understand why anybody would think he would pick a team from last season because that's all he has. There's nothing else to do. I read somewhere that his agent has been upset that Man United have left Ten Hag to dry, and the transfer targets that he was promised, nothing has come in. Do you believe that story, Big Dunk?
Well, again, we talked about transfers last week. There has to have been more transfer targets than this. Like he's been saying after the Brentford match that they have to get in more quality players. So yeah, it does seem to be that way. Like it's not generally the manager that goes out and buys these players and does all the negotiation. It's the team at Man United. So they're clearly failing in their job. The De Jong saga's been going on for weeks now, and you'd have to say like if that was going to happen, it probably would have happened before now. And like I said, it's going to look really bad if like Chelsea come in and take him like in double quick time after showing interest in the last couple of weeks. So yeah, there's definitely people at the club not doing their job properly, but behind the manager.
People not doing their job properly behind the manager, usually that points to bad leadership. Man United was a steady business going well. And in the past 10 years, even if the Glazers will say they have spent £1 billion on players, which they have, but with the news that came out this week and all the talk about all that money is none of the Glazers are not using any of their money. They're literally using everything that's come in from the club, from the fans, and all the story going around with them not being really interested. Mr. Hinder, eventually I'm going to get to player accountability, as you said, one of my favorite words last episode. I'm going to get there. But for now, do you think a lot of the fingers should be pointed at just the Glazers?
No, I'm horrendous at facts on here and stats. I'm getting them wrong left, right, and center. So I believe they took over in 2005. It was quite a while ago, right? There was the green and yellow protests that were unsuccessful in the early days of them taking over with the Newton Heath colours, etc. I think there's a strange element of going on there at United of what is actually right and wrong. So the elements of going, they took over in 2005. Okay, they had the protests. We know it didn't go very well. they haven't necessarily spent a massive amount of money. And I agree that the little argument between Neville and Redknapp was funny from a couple aspects. One, Redknapp was 100% right. Players, etc. Gary Neville moaning constantly about the ownership of the club, and yeah, maybe they were cash rich when they took over. There was 350 million in the bank. That's their business, right? But they spent $1 billion, so with diminishing returns, right, of how well it's going to perform over the last 10 years. I don't think they sold a player for profit. Okay, they haven't. They're one of the best grounds in the league, even for capacity wise. It's still an amazing ground, right? So it's not like it's a poor ground. Yes, it does obviously need some work, and it's not state of the art opposed to some of the other stadiums in the league. But then Arsenal had the state of the art stadium at one point, and now Spurs have got the best state of the art stadium, and so there's always going to be the case. Do they need a new training ground? Well, yeah, that's great, but what's that really going to improve? All right. On a club level, these improve things, right? You have a nicer experience at the ground. It looks prettier when you go in. You've got better training facilities. The showers are warmer. I don't know. The physio room is nicer. The weight room's nicer. The pitches are beautiful to play on for all that element of it. Now, all of that you could say, yeah, fundamentally as a business does need to be improved. I think Burnley were doing it all as well when they were in the Premier League to make sure they had all of that ready. So that hasn't necessarily been done over the last few years. So you have to go, all right, Glazers, what are you doing from that side of things? But till Ferguson went, all right, he was still getting the results out of there. And now after Ferguson went, you obviously had a few issues with managers and how they were performing, rightly or wrongly, given them a long period of time or not. They're not given anyone 5 years because, A, that's really unheard of in football at the moment. And it was going to be unlikely that anyone has a job for that long, especially when you're talking to top managers that will look on to wanting to move on. Mourinho, and I know a lot of people don't like Mourinho, hit the nail on the head with they needed reinforcements, they needed players, they needed support. Was he the man for it? I don't know.
But doesn't that Mourinho said his biggest achievement was finishing second with the team he had, which obviously meant, I needed better players. I needed people to come in. I need people with strong mentality. But doesn't that also point fingers straight back to the situation we're talking about here? The structure that was laid out with Ferguson and Gill at the time and how things ran smoothly. So if the player was available and things could happen, it would have, got done. Player comes in, improves Man United. Man United was winning at the time. Now, the question here is, if the appointments of the Glazers or whoever they've put in this structure is affecting transfers, affecting organization, is affecting whatever, will it trickle down and affect the players this badly? I mean, if I was a pundit like one of you, I would say no. There is no reason it should affect the players. But for some reason, people always seem to point at the board and says it comes back. So do you think that's what's happening?
Well, you've got... So I wanted to take the business side of it. So just on the business side, yeah, there's a lot of elements that they could be doing. And then maybe they have made some wrong appointments along the way. Maybe the technical director wasn't the best choice. Rangnick came in and said that the whole team needed heart surgery and then needed revamping. They're getting in people, they're having targets to hit. So we assume that these guys aren't getting the targets. But then actually you think of it, and Duncan wasn't happy with the signing of Martinez for them, the world's tallest defender. But they got him in, right? So he was wanted and he was brought in. Eriksen was wanted and brought in, regardless of for whatever reasons. So it's not like these players weren't wanted and brought in. Now, Ten Hag said no one's allowed to buy. Rashford isn't for sale. I mean, Rashford scored probably as many goals in the Premier League in the last 2 seasons as I have. So it's not like
how many goals have you scored?
As many as Rashford. So I'm not sure that there's this. It's not cohesive, regardless of that. Should it trickle down to the players? No, because they're still all getting paid a vast amount of money for what they're doing, and they're playing very, very, very poorly. But I'm not business. Aside, yeah, there's a lot done wrong. Okay, so let's say the board haven't done right, but there's a lot of businesses that the board don't do right. I think Apple wanted Steve Jobs out at one point. So we're not talking of people always thinking that they're doing the right thing. There's always going to be mistakes. Is the club cash rich? No. But are they worth more? Yeah. Will they sell them for a profit? Yeah, potentially they'll sell them for a profit. Chelsea were running at a 50 million loss every quarter or something. So these clubs aren't running as profitable clubs. Of course, there's going to be no money like sitting in there, because that's not how the businesses work when you get to this level of finance. Because we're not talking of, oh, my mate's a carpenter or my mate's a plumber, he needs to keep money in the bank to buy stuff. This is a whole different level of finance that most of us don't comprehend, the way that these businesses run on secrets and friends and borrowing money from banks to leverage stuff, because that's just how it works. Why use your money when somebody else's money works far better for you, right? And predominantly money's been cheap. So that side of things. So let's say the business side of things is fine, right? We'll just say that's kind of okay. Have they made some wrong appointments? Yes. Have they tried to rectify it? Yes, they have. Have they listened to the fans? Yes. Have they come out and spoke to the fans? No. Do many owners of any club speak to fans?
Yes.
Who?
The Leicester guy before he died. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, so you got one, right? How many times
I mean,
does
that's the question you asked, though. If any,
yeah,
any,
what's
if any
the
other
one?
club,
So basically, no one does, do they? No one really comes out. Like, I'm a Wednesday
it's
fan.
the reassurance, though. It's
yeah,
the
but I'm a
reassurance.
Wednesday fan, and we get a note from the chairman every now and again, and then they're like, "Oh, we want to open it up. We want to have fans from. We want to speak to the fans." And then you look at the accounts at the end of the year, and they look horrendous. So on borrowed money. So these chairmen and owners, they're not there to talk to the fans, because in the nicest possible way. It's not
if you
really
were doing your work well and you're appointed well, you wouldn't need to speak to the fans, though. That's why you have the appointments there. So
100%.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that may or may not know the story, Steve Jobs left Apple because of his power struggle with John Scully. John Scully came in with a different idea. Steve Jobs thought, this is not working. And if we use that same ideology, Sir Alex Ferguson, David Gill, steering the ship really well. Everything was going smoothly. The Glazers came in, supported. Everything was still going smoothly. And then those two left, and now everything just started going down the drain. There must be some sort of pattern here. If every manager, David Moyes claims, wasn't given enough time, didn't particularly have the support. Mourinho claims the same thing. Van Gaal claims the same thing. Solskjaer had a bit more time, showed improvements. Everybody blamed, Ronaldo coming in. What is the balance, though? Neil, I'll ask you again. What is the balance? At what point does this business thing affect what is happening to the players, if it does affect them at all?
Yeah, I mean, we'll go back to the training ground not being pretty enough, or the ground not being attractive enough.
Harrington is a wonderful training ground. Rubbish.
Look, listen, I wasn't the one moaning about the facilities there. To me, it's just bollocks. Start to finish, right? It's just bollocks. The business side of it, right? I get if you're not getting paid. So the Chelsea thing was a little bit different. Touched on it earlier. There was threat that potentially they weren't going to get paid. So that's a little bit like, I might not have a job here. The Man U players are still getting paid. The management's still getting paid. There's nothing not happening on the level of the workers, right? The tea ladies are still getting paid. There's nothing to worry about. So you then look at the footballing aspect, and you have to look at the actual footballing aspect. That's what people come in to listen to. Us berate the football, not the CEO, the directors and stuff like that. They want to know what is going on with Ten Hag and what is going on at United. Now, the players, as far as I'm concerned, have got no excuse. They can't say that they were distracted by the potential of De Jong coming in, or they can't say that the ground, the board aren't supporting everything, because they're there, they're working for the club, right? You have to give your best in your job, or at least enough to make it look like you're giving your best. And at the moment, that's evident that it's not there. Is it tactically inept, or are we talking of player accountability? What's the actual real problem? And I think there's a two-prong approach to this. Okay, one, let's give Ten Hag a little bit of time before we sack him off. I think he's shocked by the football in the UK and the way that it's played, right? It's different. That's a rude awakening. Brighton and Bournemouth. Sorry, I'm not saying that they're Brentford, sorry. I'm not saying that they're the best teams in the Prem, but they're competitive teams that have come out in that game. He's been working in Holland, so he's been having 3 competitive games a year, right? in the Prem. Every game is competitive. It's true though, right? He's at
Okay,
PSV. And then I know, and you're like, well, so how many games? It's
so
hard,
what he
three
has?
hard ones.
So he has PSV, he has Feyenoord, and then maybe what? Some other well, okay,
Did he say or someone like every now and again? But yeah, I'll
all
shut
right,
up because I've been speaking ages. Go on.
all right. So Dunk, let me. This is the thing. So there's a business aspect, there's a football aspect. We are more worried about the football aspect, but for the past few weeks, everybody has been talking about the business aspect affecting the players. The blame situation, or the blame, I don't know, whatever they think or whatever you want to call it, has gone from the players now to the owners, and the Glazers are doing this, the Glazers are not doing that. It was big news that the Glazers haven't used their own money. Man United is still in debt, and all that might be affecting the players. I like what Neil said. The structure of the club is still going. People are still getting paid. The players are getting paid their money. The facilities compared to Tottenham, that is new now, might be of low standard compared to Tottenham, but it's still of a very good standard. So I'll ask you, Donk, because I know you wouldn't rant as long as Mr. Hinder. Situation happening with the structure, organization, the board, Glazers, all the dafties that have been appointed, is it affecting the players?
I'd agree with Neil. Like, it shouldn't be affecting the players. Like, there's excuses there, but you can tell like, obviously when you look at what's happened to them over the last 10 years, you'd say like the club's not being run very well. Like, it's being run as a successful business, like Neil said. Like, they've made money, they've invested, but it's not being run very well from whatever structure exists within Man U. Like I was saying before, like, it's Ed Woodward. That's the guy's name, yeah. Ed Woodward,
Yeah,
who was there.
Ed
Like,
Woodward, yeah.
yeah, like the shit that went on under his watch in terms of like bad signings or overpaying for players. Like, again, like, I don't know many of the other people in the background in the club. You got the owners, and then he was like more like the public face of the club. But that's when it started for me to seem to go pretty bad, particularly in terms of transfers, trying to make these big name signings that didn't work out. Maybe they just went for the big names. They didn't do the diligence, like you would say someone like Klopp and Liverpool or Man City do, in finding players that fit in. Like, they don't have a lot of failures from there. They have a few failures, but it seems to me it's just like, yeah, get him, and they got them in, and then they didn't really. Maybe they didn't fit the system, or they didn't work out how it was going to all gel together. And there's a lot of players that have gone through the door that were bought in on big money and sold off a lot cheaper, like within 2 to 3 seasons. Di Maria is like just a name that pops off the top of my head as an example of that. Like, obviously a very good quality player, was brought in on big money, didn't work out at all, and was gone 2 seasons later on like way less money. So
I mean, when we look at our situation and people talk about Ed Woodward, in certain situations, the manager might be there to blame. So David Moyes brought in Mata and Fellaini as his buys at the time, and as his short period compared to the team. I mean, there was a lot of conversation about him changing things and the players not being happy. And from there, Van Gaal brought in Di Maria, Falcao, and those kind of players. So yes, maybe the managers have made some mistakes in the past in terms of who they buy. But to go from the dynasty that Man United was to what it is now, where we're probably at the point that players will look at the situation and go, I don't want to go there. Money might be good, but I'm not going to win stuff. Now, this is one that is, this is, before we actually go into the player review, this is the one that kills me. I saw this on Sky Sports. Man United are thinking of terminating Cristiano Ronaldo's contract because of his attitude. That is, I'll ask you this, Mr. Hinder. Doesn't this just show the man is a born winner? Yes, he can throw his hands in the air and wave it around like he just don't care. You see what I did there? And but surely terminating Cristiano Ronaldo's contract because of his attitude. Who is running this club? These are the things that people need to understand. Are you sure it's not going to affect the players from the business side?
Krusty the Clown, in answer to who's running the club. Like I said before, that's the club. That's news and leaking stuff to the press to try to make it look like there's somebody of the Fergie ilk there. to say that we're in charge, no one's bigger than United. There might only be one player in the world, two players in the world bigger than United, and that would be Messi and Ronaldo. And everyone probably knows them first than United now,
and Zlatan.
unfortunately. Obviously, Zlatan, he's one of the only football players older than me in the world. So that's rubbish. There's no way that they're going to terminate his contract. That's just absolute garbage. I don't think it says anything about United. That's just leaking stuff like they were like with the Arnautovic to test some waters to find out whether this was a good idea or a bad idea. I was trying to have a look into, as we've been talking about United, and the director of football, who is John Murtough,
Yep.
who was on trying to get Rabiot, who had to talk to Rabiot's mother. I'm not sure if that's happened or not. He's only been in the job a year and a bit. Okay. But that's a good thing, right? So that means he hasn't been appointed since Ten Hag's been there. That means that he was already aware of the situation because of Rangnick, right? So,
yeah, but he came in, and then that's why Ed Wood's retirement, or whatever you want to call it, was delayed, because Ed Woodward was supposed to hand over to him and show him the ropes.
Yeah, 100%. But this guy's been at what the point is I'm trying to make is the guy's been at Man United for 7 years. Okay, so he's not new. So he's not new. So he's an old problem, if as it were, that's been promoted through the ranks. That's creating maybe new problems. But he should have already identified, as your director of football, the issues that you've currently got, and he should be advising and talking to Ten Hag. You shouldn't be linked with Arnautovic, right? Whether you get De Jong or not, whether that should have been pulled back and stopped and just gone, you know what, we don't want to have this, right, we'll move on to our next player, right? That's what they should have done, but it hasn't. It's carried on going for too long, and it's just embarrassing for everybody involved apart from De Jong now. But this guy's been there 7 years, and then they appoint Darren Fletcher, right, as your technical director. Darren Fletcher. He's now your technical director, and he's been for a year. Now, I don't know. He might be quite technical. He might have a good philosophy of the football. But these aren't Ten Hag's men. These are United people that they've already got in. Should Ten Hag have had his own people in? And given jobs to these people, it is fine for Darren Fletcher, but he needs to work with somebody and learn from that person and have a better tutelage on transition into the job. He can then move across and become excellent, not a problem at all. It's fine for everyone to that, but they need a good period of going in. So those things reek of desperation. Now, the game itself, the Man U game, reeked of desperation as well. So the whole club's just desperate from top to bottom, but for completely different reasons. There's no way that Rashford is worried about what's going on behind the scenes. Okay, he's done his good for society, which was amazing work, right? He's interested in that and helping other people. I don't think he really cares who United are buying and what's going on, because it doesn't look like they're going to replace him. Okay, so that puts him in a comfortable position of, I'm not being replaced. I should be able to play with a little bit of confidence, chest puffed out. I know that I can score goals. I have scored them before. I've got a bit of a point to prove now. It doesn't happen when it comes on the pitch. And then everyone was making this big thing about Martinez being 5'9", or Martinez being 5'9" at the back. He's the smallest defender. He's not going to be any good. Gary Neville was moaning about him, that he'll have to go play somewhere else on the pitch because he's too small. The goals weren't conceded because of that situation. The goal that was a header was about 3 feet off the ground when it went in. That was just poor defensive work all over the shop. So his height, to me, is a side note. Yeah, there was the points when Maguire was taken in, but there was a really, 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 really good interview with Paul Merson when he was on Sky Sports News, talking about when they signed Maguire and saying Maguire was only good for England when he was playing with a back three. Okay, I could have taken full credit for this talk, but he's saying they were only good when they were playing with a back three for England. And when he's playing for United and they're playing a high press and he's basically sitting on a halfway line, he's got to run back. He can't do that. He never did that with Leicester. There was just very, very close low block for Leicester, and for England there was three across the back. So it's completely different football. So now you've got this Martinez in. You've got Maguire that already can't defend it the way that they want to defend it. I'm not saying that he can't defend at all.
Yeah, but
he needs to be playing different. So these are tactically inept situations that Ten Hag hasn't figured out as of yet. That is already there. So Ten Hag making him captain and putting him in that position, just ludicrous as it was. Signing Martinez, all right, probably a little bit silly that he is that short in the Premier League and he's going to get exploited. That's a silly mistake. But his signing, unless it comes out and it says, actually, we already wanted him and you had to have him. But that's a Ten Hag signing, and that's showing naivety coming into the Premier League. But that's, like Duncan said for the last two shows, an absolute boatload for a defender that they could have got a better one for, and he was replaced better.
First things first, in terms of Lisandro Martinez and him struggling second game in the Premier League, it happens. It happened to Evra, it happened to Vidic. They ended up being very wonderful, solid, world-class defenders. Yes, Dunk?
You're muted still.
You're mute.
I pressed the wrong button there. Pressed the hand. I was just going to say, like, on when you're talking about like how the club is being run, like, and definitely something's like a thought of mine that's become a bit more clear with Neil talking, like the Murto guy, if he's been there 7 years, and Darren Fletcher, like a club like Man U, they should really be scouting for talent like across the world in those kind of positions at the football club. Like I can't remember all the names off the top of my head, but like I know like Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea, even Everton, like Marcel Brands, they've appointed people that have worked in the game and have experience and expertise like at top clubs in Europe. Like where's that from Man U? Like, so Ed Woodward was a friend of the Glazers, you said. So he was like an inside job because they knew he could do the business side. The replacement guy's already been there 7 years, so he's just been coming through the club. Darren Fletcher's in from like the Fergie era because he was in those teams. Like they should really be looking a bit more outside appointment wise in the back room structure. Like for a club of their stature, I don't know if they maybe that's a bit of overconfidence from the owners. Okay, so in that regard, I can see like why people like Gary Neville will be getting upset with the owners, because that is the structure of the club, and ultimately that's their responsibility. So I do think there is a problem like in the structure behind the managers, and it's obviously not worked for the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, there's an obvious structure. There's an obvious problem in the structure. What we're trying to determine here is the business side should be different from the football side. There's an obvious problem. Ed Woodward was the guy to lead that business side, which he didn't clearly do it properly. And they brought somebody else. And you're right. The structure that was laid out before, with the scout talent Man United should have, it shouldn't be an issue. You have other clubs that put former players in. Arsenal have Edwin. He didn't come in with a CV of, I've been a technical football director for like 5-10 years. He came in with I'm a footballing man, and I work with the manager and I can get things done. So you're right, but we have established that there is something wrong with the structure. What we're trying to establish is the footballing side. Why is it affecting the players? But Neil, I'll let you talk, and then let's go into the player review, because we can be on here forever.
Of course. Just one last thing on the business thing, because Dunk's made me think about something. And Jeja, you're a Man United supporter, so I'm going to ask you a question as the host. Do you think the Glazers care if they win anything, as long as the company's making them enough money?
Yes, they do. Considering the fact that we are on the stock market, winning is the only thing that can keep you high. So if you start going down the drain, losing games, losing your fear factor, losing your stock value, yes, they definitely do care. So, and that's another reason that even with the fact that they haven't used their own money, that for the past few years, even if people have said, oh, they've not put money in, they have actually spent £1 billion on players. So 100% they do care. What they don't care about is that at this particular moment in time, they have not had to use any of their money to secure anything. Man United is still a massive commercial brand. So I don't think, from the way they see it, there's no panic button for them. It's just, yeah, we're fine. We'll finish in top 6, top 7 in the Premier League, and then the stock wouldn't drop too much. We'll probably get another deal because, as you said, the value of the club is still massive, right?
Yeah.
So yes, they do care, and at the same time, they don't.
So obviously, Man United are a floated club. They floated under the Glazers, as far as I'm aware, right? So they're not going to put their own money in. It would be stupid. The whole point of floating and the whole point of having a PLC isn't so you put your own money in. It's not. They're no longer like Chelsea, like an insular club owned by one or two or even a consortium of people, right? So there's never going to be this issue of them, or there's never going to be this sanction of them going, do you know what? We've made $4 billion from our American sports teams. Let's invest it in the UK. First of all, they wouldn't be able to because it would be too much money. But they're not going to do that because of the way that that's worked. Yes, they've got shares and they're majority shareholders, but because of the way that the company works, that doesn't just affect them, right? So if they put $1 billion in, say they only own 51%, 49% of that is no longer theirs. That's not going to happen. If I own my own company, the whole 100% when Abramovich has put money in, he owned it all. Whether he had shell companies across from it or not, he owned it all. So what he put in, eventually he was getting back at some particular point. So that's why he's doing it. If you don't have sole ownership of the club, then it's never going to be that case unless they go and buy all the shares again, which they're not going to do because they didn't care enough about that side of it. So they're never going to put their own money in. So I think for Gary Neville to think that that's going to happen, that's like him putting millions into Salford, right? And he's not the only owner, but he's never going to put more money in than anyone else. Okay, he's not going to bail them out or suddenly go, you know what, we need an extra 3 million in to buy these players or to do this or to pay the tea ladies some more money or whatever. That's just not going to happen. Because he doesn't own it all. He was going to want everyone to go, let's all put our fair share in.
I think one of the things that people what you might be failing to see is that as a business structure, you can run a football club as a business, but it will cripple the number one product which the business produces, which is football. We have seen very good businessmen come in and take good clubs, and guess what happens? They put the clubs into debt, and before you know, this club will stop winning. You lose your commercial value. And before you know, boop, you start going down the drain. So now, business model, Glazers are doing very well, if you've said. 100%. They're not going to use their own money. What's the point of using my own money when I'm making more money without even touching my money? It makes sense from a business point of view. But Man United became a brand because of the football. And now the football is going. Eventually, that business model will crumble, regardless of how smart you think you are. And when that happens, that's why you see legendary clubs like Derby and all them people. They just end up and they're going to admin. I mean, Man United is probably still far from that, but the worry is there. The signs are on the wall. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've gone way too long on the business aspect and talking of trying to make sense about businesses that we have no idea. Glazers are probably drinking wine now and watching American football. Dunk, I will start with you. Player review for the team that actually played against Brentford. Brentford played really well, high press. They did what they had to do. All the touches, every move was done properly. I will start with David De Gea. He came out and he said, I cost my team 3 points because of the mistake he made. How would you rate his performance and against Brentford?
Yeah, pretty awful. Yeah. So obviously, like, there's no getting away from the fact that that was a huge mistake on his part for the first goal. He was involved in the second goal as well when he played the pass to someone, like put them under absolute pressure.
Yeah, played the pass to Eriksen when Maguire was on the right free.
Yeah. So like 2 huge mistakes, and when you're down on confidence like that, yeah, he's right. He did cost them 3 points or any points at all with those mistakes he made. Like if you're scoring him out of 10, he's down on a 3 or something like that for that game.
Okay. And then, I mean, Big Steve did mention that Dean Henderson actually put the fire back in De Gea, and now Dean Henderson has gone to Nottingham Forest, and maybe De Gea is a bit comfortable again. And all the mistakes, well, it's only been 2 games, but, he did cost that game against Brentford. 3 over 10 from Big Dog for De Gea. Mr. Hinder, Luke Shaw.
What a player.
What a man.
What a player. Pace, awareness. I think maybe they all need their eyes checked. He had a horrendous game as well. Came off after 45 minutes as well. I'd probably give him like a 4. Might be pushing about out of 4, but I think a 4 is a safe number for him. Okay. I think there's one thing. If Big Steve said that De Gea is getting comfortable because Henderson's he saved an absolute quality penalty as well on the weekend.
No, it was a crap penalty, but we'll get to that later.
No, he saved it. He saved. If a keeper makes a save, it's a great save, right? Regardless if the penalty is good or bad.
We'll get to that later.
But he made the save, right? Then that says that De Gea's got no professionalism at all. and if he's not worried about his
If-
space, and I don't.
If
Yeah,
Big Steve is right.
that's what I'm saying, which I think is unfair to De Gea. I think De Gea is way above that, and I think the problem with De Gea is I think he was too confident in what he had done, especially the first goal, whether it went under his arms or he needs his eyes tested. It's one of the two. Specsavers. Oh, imagine if Man United had Specsavers as their sponsor next season because TeamView no longer want to sponsor. Oh, you could have. That would be awesome. I'll put some money in Specsavers if you give me a call to get that sponsorship done.
I am sure both of you on this show right now can direct him to where he can get his eyes tested. I'm sure. Okay, Lisandro Martinez. I don't buy that crap of, oh, he's small and he's short. That's why. They've had great defenders that have come into struggle. I mentioned Patrice Evra and Vidic struggling. Evra being told that he had to go to the gym and was asked, are you sure you can play in the Premier League? So he might come of age, but
Didn't they ship Evra out to left back in the end?
which is where he came to play.
Yeah, but I think he played a few games centre back and he wasn't good enough for centre back and he was popped out the way.
His first game against Man City was as left back, and then he struggled, and he has always been left back. So stop telling lies.
And did Vidic struggle when he started? Did it?
Yep.
Was
Big
it
struggle.
Played with Ferdinand, didn't he?
Yeah, initially he couldn't. It was either his tackles were too hard. He didn't. He was just all over the place. Anyway, big dunk, Lisandro Martinez.
You're not going to give me Harry Maguire?
I could. You could say something. You could say something.
Look, Martinez was better than Maguire. We'll put it that way. But again, like on a general rating system, like out of 10, 6 is like decent, or your starting point. If you're above average, you go above that. Seven's like you're pretty decent. So again, like no one's getting more than a 4 or a 5 in that department there. I mean, I'll give Martinez a 4.5 because he was probably the best in the back line there.
Okay. And Maguire, even if Neil can tell me what he thinks, but yeah, Maguire.
You want me to give Mark Maguire?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think I'll just put him on the 3, same as De Gea. They were partners in crime, both as bad as each other on that performance.
Okay. Mr. Hinder, Maguire and Diego Dallo. Let's go.
Maguire has to take a majority of the blame for any of the defence because he's captain, fantastic. So he has to be vocal. He has to make sure people are in positions, and if they're not, and there's issues, he should be telling them off and getting sorted. But I think he just looks well out of his depth. So yeah, I think a 3 is a decent run. Dallo wasn't actually that bad.
Yeah, he was.
No, he wasn't that bad. I mean, we've got to compare him to like other players in that game. He wasn't as bad as Maguire. So I still think like a 4 is fair. I mean,
like a lot of that backline is played together for. What do you think Martinez thought about being paired with Harry Maguire in that match? What do you think? Like, if he could answer honestly, what do you think he would say about being paired with Harry Maguire and how that match went?
It's funny, isn't it? Because if you look at that starting lineup, right, there was only one player, only one new signing in the whole of that starting lineup. That's it.
Two new signings.
Who else?
Eriksen.
Oh, Eric. Sorry, I forgot about that. I told you he shouldn't have been signed in the first place. But two new signings. That's 9 players that don't know how to play football for the last season, and they stuck them in and they're going, "Here you are, lads. Enjoy that one." I bet he just sat there and just shook his head. I bet. This is who I'm playing with today. How much are you paying me per week?
Thank God for the paycheck.
Okay, Man United didn't have McFred this time. They had Fred and Christian Eriksen.
Yes.
From what we understand here, at least from what you saw from that game, it was a typical, the centre-backs go wide, Eriksen drops deep to come and take the ball, and Fred goes, I don't know where Fred goes on holiday or something. So, Mr. Hinder, Fred and Christian Eriksen, what do you rate? And of course, Big Donkey can tell me the same.
I mean, what the absolute fudge are they doing with Eriksen? Like, I said this before, he's a player that you have to carry, right? He isn't a player that's going to be athletic. He isn't going to be running about. He is that player, that luxury player that Brentford could have because of the tenacity that they played with, and they wanted that bit of quality, that little bit of magic. So you give him the space to do what he wants by running. Everyone else runs, if that makes sense. And that's how it works. He's played 2 games, 2 different positions. He's got no idea what he's doing Ten Hag's got no idea what he's doing. He was so slow on the pass out from De Gea that I think he was still playing for Brentford at that particular point. He was that slow. He's going to get a 2. I think he was that bad. Just literally so woeful. And how he stayed on the pitch for 87 minutes is absolutely criminal. When you've got a McTominay sitting on it, comes on after 45, just take off Eriksen at that point and go, no, Eriksen, that's not acceptable. And then just be done and go, right, this is where you should have. That's what should have happened. So, yeah, for me, he was the worst player because he should know better. But Fred? He doesn't. And Fred, I don't think he was that bad. Again, he only played 45 minutes. Was a bit unfair, really, because he played the crap 45 minutes, if that made sense. The changes at half-time, Brentford didn't care anymore. They'd already got 4 goals, so they were sitting on their hollybobs. I'd give him a 4.8. Not quite a 5, but he's still got to be like a high 4s just to be a little bit above. He was still poor, but how do you play in that mid? All right, so how do you play in that midfield? Eriksen, Fernandes, and Fred. Like, what do you do?
Good question. Big dunk. Let's go across the line. Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Sancho. Go.
Just quickly on what Neil said there, like how they're using Eriksen. Like, does that remind you of Pogba much? And that's like completely different managers. Like, how can 2 completely different managers make the same mistake? Like misusing their players in a tactical system.
Well, the first game Man United played, no striker was fit, according to what Ten Hag was saying. Ronaldo was on the bench. He played Eriksen as a false 9. In this game, he played Eriksen deep. So let's see what happens against Liverpool. Eriksen might be the goalkeeper. You never know. Okay, so
he might replace Maguire.
Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Sancho.
Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Sancho. Okay, so Rashford, like people say about that miss, like it wasn't like a stupidly easy miss. People have been saying like that's on the volley and you got to direct it in the right part. But like again, not massively loads created, not looking that great in attack. Again, like no one's coming out of this in Man U above a 5. Like Rashford and Sancho 4s because they didn't really create enough up the top. Fernandes, same kind of thing as Eriksen. Like they're both similar players. They're both creative, more attack-minded midfielders. Like Neil said, like what do they do? Like and Fred likes to push on a bit as well. He's supposed to be keeping it down in front of the defense. So again, like Fernandes, I'm just going 4s across the midfield. Like there wasn't much going on there. There wasn't much creativity. There wasn't much tracking back and working for the team.
And Mr. Hinder, you get the player that apparently has an attitude that his contract might be terminated. Cristiano Ronaldo.
10. He was absolutely distraught. Literally, the only one that he gave a shit. He came back to the club that obviously it wasn't his first club, but he came back to a club that helped develop him as a player, right? And he looked absolutely distraught, regardless if he was any good or not in that game. Like the service was poor. You've got the best header of the ball in my lifetime. He can still jump higher than pretty much anyone else. Like, why are they, even if they just played him as Van Nistelrooy and they go, just stay up top, we will get the ball to you. All right? We will cross the ball to you. You got Sancho, what a waste. What a plum. I am literally, they just buy plum after plum, don't they? Like, oh, he did really well in Bundesliga. Yeah, okay, brilliant. Go and pay 400 billion for him and give him a £350,000 a day contract. I don't like. It's just stupid money. Oh yeah, but he might go somewhere else. Like again, bad transfer window. They could have got Jesus in. They could have got Sterling. They could have got players that can play.
When are you going to get it out of your system? Though Man United wouldn't have gone for Man City players.
Well, it's not. I don't know why not. Man City used to take old Man U players, right? Which was absolutely fine. Tevez had gone there. I think Schmeichel had played. That was fine. Not a problem at all, right? So why not the other way? They're not the big club anymore. Only big by name. because Manchester United is longer than Manchester City. But other than that, they literally like. But what I'm trying to say is there's proven players out there they could have got. Man, they could have signed all of Burnley's relegated players and still put in a better performance.
Okay, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Player rating given by just wait.
Oh, did you see the bench? Right, so this. Like, I know the whole United team and they were poor. Before we carry on, that bench is possibly the poorest bench I've ever seen in the Premier League. Like literally, that was.
Have you got it there, Neil? Have you got this? Go on.
I mean, I can't pronounce it. Was it Malathia?
Malasia?
Varane, Heaton, Wan-Bissaka, Van der Beek, Elanga, Garner, McTominay, Garnacho, Freya. Like literally, like
I think you're being a bit harsh. Like,
no, that's a poor bench. You're 4-0 down. Who are you bringing on?
Elanga.
Like literally, there's nothing on there. There's nothing inspiring, is there? You don't go, oh, I'm going to get replaced by who? But Ronaldo's going, oh man, I could play anywhere. No one's taking me off. Why? Because look at the bench, right? Look, you just look at that bench and it doesn't say to you like you're losing. Varane should have come on and put 3 at the back. Yeah, take Eriksen off, put 3 at the back. But when it's 2-0, don't wait until it's 4-0 and your game's over and you're struggling to what to do and just change the system because 4-2-3-1 is so boring and so predictable from United. It doesn't work at all. Like they just screaming amateur, and that's down to Ten Hag. And I don't care. His interview afterwards was atrocious as well. He did not fill me with confidence in anything at all. It was awful.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sheffield Wednesday won 1-0 this weekend.
That's right. We're second in the league.
Yeah, at least there's something that's making Mr. Hinder happy other than worrying about Ten Hag and the destruction of Manchester United.
I was going to say, are you saying Man U losing 4-0 doesn't make us happy?
He clearly is not making Mr. Hinder happy.
Don't get me wrong. I was very happy with the football gods have started changing on how the hierarchy used to be. I'm just disappointed with when you lose 4-0 and you come out and you don't do a Conte like he did for Spurs against Burnley, and you don't have that much about you. And I'm just like, what's the point, man? I'm listening to you talk, and who cares? Well, it literally cares.
Well, it's all good. We shall see. Let's see what happens. Man United's next game is against Liverpool. We might as well just give the points now and skip to the next game.
You'll win that one now.
Which is against Arsenal. So it's all good. Speaking about Arsenal, it looks like giving a manager time and seeing what happens with the project, that things might actually work and having a good transfer window. Last season, Arsenal had the most expensive transfer window. They seem to have a dude that knows what he's doing. Jesus looks good. Zinchenko looks like he's good. Tierney is back from injury. The Xhaka started making more runs into the box. Arsenal have played Crystal Palace and Leicester. So, Big Dunk, you're one man that has given Arteta some props and you think that he has been doing well with the players he has had. So now that the way the team is looking after the first 2 games of the season, would you say he has finally gotten the 11 that he wants?
It's probably pretty close. Like, I'm sure he might have wanted a couple more players. Obviously really good signings. Like Jesus, I thought was a really good signing. Zinchenko as well. And I would say like he definitely got Jesus because he was the assistant boss at Man City and he had a relationship with the player. So, I'm just happy with Arteta, like as a neutral, not a supporter of Arsenal. I'm looking from the outside, and I think he's just doing a good job. He's going about restructuring a club the right way. Like if I was a fan of Arsenal, I'd be quite happy. And like those are 2 really positive results. Like. Again, like Leicester haven't bought anyone, but they've got some good players in there. Like they're not going to be around the relegation fight this season. So that one, was probably expected maybe. But the Crystal Palace was a good result to get off the mark.
In terms of sticking and trusting the process, Arteta seems like he's proving everybody wrong, or at least those that doubted him. With the Leicester situation and not bringing any players, and most of the players wanting to go, Maddison wanting to go to Newcastle, Tielemans even wanting to go to Arsenal, Schmeichel gone to Nice. Their goalkeeper had a boo-boo with one of the goals. Leicester still, Fafana was being checked by Chelsea. I don't know if they want him after what Martinelli did to him at the weekend. But with Leicester and Brendan, Mr. Hinder, do you see a situation where they lose more players and not get that many players before September 1st?
Can I talk about Arsenal just for one thing? I just
You can.
need to say it.
Once you just talk about Leicester. Or do you want to... Okay.
We'll talk about Leicester first, it's fine. So afterwards, we'll talk about the Arsenal. I think that Brendan Rodgers has got a hard job at the moment. He's balancing those books. He's got to keep the board happy. He's got to keep the players happy. He's got to keep the fans happy. So it's quite a transitional period for him. And everyone knows that Leicester midfield has been a fairly decent midfield through the last few years. Vardy's also getting older as well, and they've struggled to find a replacement to be anywhere near his level of way. So it's a big transition. They need to keep with that process and project and have some trust in Brendan Rodgers, because he's not a rubbish manager, regardless of they have a struggle this season. If they can see some progress with some players leaving, let them go. Don't keep players that don't want to be there. That just makes no sense at all. It doesn't help the club in the long run.
Well, you have to keep them if you don't have replacements.
Nope, just let them go. Just let them go. I disagree, because they don't play well enough. Okay, once they've got it in their head that they don't want to be there, it doesn't help. And actually, they could get some players in, because Brendan Rodgers has got good connections. People would want to go and play for the club. He won't be looking at the same players as other ones, and he won't be getting transferred, marketed out of who he's looking for. So they've already got an idea of who they want in, but they want the right money for their players. But I'm a firm believer. You just let them go. Don't keep them beyond, because one season they could be really good, then the next season, their head's not in the right place, and you lose it. And I get you want to keep your best players, but you got to keep your best players happy, and keeping them happy keeps them playing well. So I would let them go, even if it's a little bit of a detriment, a little bit of a hiccup. Then I'm assuming they've got some decent youths, and it's just getting the money in at the right time and not then losing all the money that they had. Just think of Maguire, letting him go for all that money that they got for him, keeping him for another season. They might have got peanuts. So it's about that kind of getting players gone at the right time for the right money, not cheap, but for the right money, and it does the club some good. Of that's a squad that needs a good few additions to it to build it up, and I don't mean willy-nilly ones.
Okay, you can talk about Arsenal now, because you're going to go on for Leicester.
I love who doesn't like Leicester. Everyone loves Leicester. So the process, obviously, for and the project for Arteta's been working well. It's done well. They still haven't bought where I think they needed to have buy, but they've papered over those cracks pretty damn well with who they have bought. And they're really intelligent purchases. I know, like Zinchenko and Jesus, and they're like, they played before, but actually getting those two players that know exactly how he wants to play football, because he's very similar to Pep, and understanding where they should be, that is an absolute masterclass, because these players have just come in, right? And they've cost relative peanuts in consideration of some other players in the Premier League. They come in, they know exactly what's expected and exactly where to play. So other managers need to take note of what they're getting, and players who are good in their other leagues and with them, they need to make sure that when they're going to come in and they want to make that impact, they need to have been playing in a similar formation or a similar position to their Bayern. Don't just think, he was good over there, let's get him in. I think Man United have been linked with Icardi as well today. So it's just about. I love that eye roll. For those listening on audio, JJ eye roll. But what I mean is they need to have a plan, and they've got a plan, and they're sticking to that plan and getting people in. Like Xhaka, we've been saying for years, probably isn't good enough, and Nani probably isn't good enough. But they stuck with them, and actually they've built players around them that are far better than they were when they were there before. So these steady eddies, are decent. They're not world beaters, they're not world class, but actually then you start getting Jesus in there, who actually seems to get on quite well with Martinelli. They're playing some good football together, right? So
it's a Brazilian thing.
Wow, it could be a Brazilian thing. I don't know. I haven't looked down there, but it's great
down there. You're making it sound like it's somewhere down there. It's a country.
Yeah, I'm aware.
He missed the reference there, Neil.
Yeah, you think he did. But
I didn't. I just chose not to accept
It's really important that, and I don't think he'd be given enough props for getting those old players. I know he worked with them before, but that is really,
2 games,
really, really good. Yeah, but it doesn't make a difference.
2 games, though.
That's really good business getting these players in. Zinchenko, literally, I was amazing. I thought he was really, really good in that game. His passing was on point. He's settled in, right? He hasn't come in and gone, I've got to work out this Premier League. I know the Premier League and I know how Arteta wants to play, and I'm going to come in. And maybe Arteta does play subtly differently to Pep, not a problem at all. But these are very intelligent players that can change the way that they play. And actually, they're not in pivotal positions, right? So if the striker doesn't play well one game, that's fine, right? It will get them this game. They're not centre backs. So Saliba going out on loan for 300 years and then coming back, great, because he got the football that he needed and comes back and scores a quality goal. That header was fantastic, by the way. I'm not really sure what happened there, but it was very good. So Arsenal looking really, really good. They've got some new vigor, which is really important as well, because it shows that the new heads in the dressing room are important to the rest of the players around them, and that can bring them up and they have they look like they're a team as well, and that's important. So yeah, real massive props to Arsenal. They played really, really good football. Letting in 2 goals as well isn't even here and there, but I'd rather see 4-2 than 2-0 for any game. Gives a bit more excitement than it.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is exactly why I didn't let him talk about Arsenal first, because I knew it would be longer than the Leicester one. But it's
You cut me off on Leicester.
I had to, even though you will still be on there. And it was a good game for the Gunners. They're looking good. 2 games in, 100% record, way better start than they had last season. Arteta seems to be getting things together. I'll be shocked if they actually did buy anybody else before the end of the window, but you never know. He might have something up his sleeve, and it's a good blend for the players he has gotten. Now we go to the battle of the bridge. It was a battle, at least between the managers, and it was actually a very good game of football. Reece James proving Mr. Hinder right, scoring a good goal. Timo Werner left the team, scored in his first game for RP Leipzig. So he's like, yeah, maybe the chains have been broken. But it was a good game between Tottenham. Tottenham, I think, were happier with the result, considering the fact that they did not play really well. Harry Kane scores a goal in August, which wasn't too bad. He seemed very happy about it. Mr. Big Dunk. In terms of, we have looked at Tottenham as a team that will improve under Conte this season, and it looks Neil even picked them to win the league, even if he says don't put your mortgage on it. But from what we saw today, in the old days, Tottenham would have lost that game. Are we beginning to see a change in mentality, a change in the style of play? Because they didn't particularly play well. Is this all Conte is doing? Have the players started to believe a bit more?
It was definitely a good result for them, considering Chelsea were the better team on the day. Again, it's just one game, but like historically, they've lost a lot of games against Chelsea, and it was away. So that's again, I was talking last week about momentum. That's a good momentum result, not to lose that one. Get a draw. You're still unbeaten. You've got one of the your top 4 rivals away, done and dusted at the start of the season, and you haven't lost, so they're not going to gain any ground on you. So yeah, definitely a good result from that point of view. Again, we can't judge it. Conte got that team firing at the end of last season, so it looks like the momentum is carrying through onto this season. So it's good from that point of view. Chelsea, I thought they were going to lose after like some of the troubles and last week's really unconvincing win against Everton. So they put in an impressive performance, like to pretty much dominate the game. They had much better of it than Spurs. Koulibaly scored a pretty banging volley, like for a central defender. Like if you look at his FIFA stats, you wouldn't be pulling that off in the game. So again, like I think it's decent all round. Chelsea will be disappointed that they didn't win, but they've put on a really good performance. Sterling was in the mix, creating chances, laying chances on for other people, assisted the second goal. So that was nice to see. So yeah, apart from Chelsea will be a little bit disappointed from not the result, but they'll be happy with the performance, and Spurs will be happy with not losing away at Chelsea.
Oh, good. The question I do have for you, Mr. Hinder, because you have always given Tuchel a lot of stick. You actually said he might be out of the job after the first 2 weeks. But the way he played today, the formation he played, Loftus-Cheek on the right, which he played really well, giving Sessegnon a lot of problems. Sterling playing up top or dropping in deep. And similarly, I mean, Jorginho playing the pivot, even if he did cost the equalizer as far as I'm concerned. But do you think Tuchel is showing that he's still a good manager with a masterclass using the players that he has to blend the team to play better?
No. No. Why would I change in that performance? Like, he's been there over a year. So, as far as I'm concerned, he's made his bed. He's laying in it now. Did they play better than last week? Yeah, 100% they played better. But they should be up for a London derby. James is an absolute baller. The player is fantastic. He's wasted. Sterling is a great addition to that
Wasted.
team.
Well,
Yeah,
because
wasted.
you want him to play in the middle.
He should be playing for Wednesday.
Yeah.
We've got a different Reece James. He's not quite as good. I think we go. Oh yeah, Chelsea played really really well. It's 2-2. I'd rather play shit and get a 2-2 draw, right? So Tottenham getting that late goal and 2-2, that'll feel like a win. That's some momentum, right? Didn't play great, come away with a draw, perfect. You play really well and you draw. Now that's like a loss. So that's going to affect Chelsea a lot more than it will affect Spurs. Also, really, Koulibaly's defending was suspect. There's that second goal, Harry Kane's header. Harry Kane headering the ball unmarked, right? I just need to. Harry Kane headers the ball from a corner unmarked, right? I don't know if Chelsea listens to this. Harry Kane was unmarked in the box, right? I can see it. How the hell do they not see it? Who is not marking Harry Kane? Like, if you need to, I know you go zonal or whatever, but you need to man mark some of these players that can header the ball. Harry Kane headering the ball unmarked in the box. We're not talking of the left back heading the ball. We're not talking of Romero getting one. We're talking of Harry Kane heading the ball from a corner. All right, there's players in the box. It's absolutely woeful defending. Koulibaly completely at fault for that. He should be aware. He doesn't get away with it just because he's got that fantastic volley. But he showed a frailty to there. Werner scoring, great for Werner. It just shows it completely played in the wrong position at Chelsea. Not enough trust in him. Again, the creative spark was gone. But James's creative spark is fantastic, and I'm hoping he continues this great vein of form, ready for the World Cup. But that's going to be really good for England. That's what I care about.
You just
from
want
him.
to swap him with the guy in Sheffield Wednesday and think.
Well, obviously,
you think nobody will notice.
He's a great footballer, though. He's got skills. He can pass. He's got vision. He can tackle. He doesn't give up. Like, if you're looking for a role model as a youngster and you want a footballer, he is that type of player that you would look up to and go, actually, you're a great football player, and you come across that well. Loftus-Cheek had a fairly good game today. There was a lot of stuff that came as a positive from Chelsea, but I still look at the centre of the park and I'm like, yeah, I'm not really that sure. Kante's still great, but he doesn't seem to be. He's not found the rich vein of form as well. He hasn't had that much faith put in him. Sterling at the top still looks a little lost from time to time. But yeah, a much better performance from Chelsea. But I would still feel like it was a loss coming away with 2-2, being up, being confident, and then Spurs getting back in with, shouldn't have been a goal in the first place. It should have been a free kick to Chelsea at that particular point where they pulled Cucurella's hair.
Oh well, there's that, and Romero did get the ball against our tackle against Havertz, as the replay showed. So good call from the ref.
The second one was definitely ridiculous. That, like, regardless of one, this is the interesting thing, right? So he pulled his hair from the back. Okay, they're not having sex. He's pulled his hair from the back, right? He's pulled him straight down. So if you can't see, if you listen to audio, I'm pulling the hair, right? If I do that to your nose, I'm sent off, aren't I? If I'm in front of you, because my hands touched your face. So why is it okay to pull the hair? And why is that not a red card? So I understand VAR can't give free kicks and they can't give yellow cards.
Which I don't know why, because it's so daft having it. They don't see
because you start overminding all the referee's decisions. But that one there, that's a clear and obvious miss. And I believe you've pulled his hair, his head. Surely the rule isn't just face that you're not allowed to touch. It's got to be the whole head. He's pulled him by the hair down like he's wrestling with him. And for me, that should have been I would have sent him off, and it shouldn't have been a goal. But after that, that was just ridiculous defending.
Yeah, Romero was the best Tottenham player to me today. Played really well. Stood up to Havertz. Didn't take any of the bullying or them trying to rile him up. Was so calm. I do have a question for you though, Big Dunk, because you are probably one of the only few people that could pronounce Cucurella's name a few weeks ago. So Alonso is still there. Chilwell is still there, and he brings in Cucurella. Is he saying he absolutely had no faith and belief in those two, or is he just trying to, get a bigger squad? Because personally, I think Chilwell is the best left back he has. So what is he seeing in Cucurella that he's, putting those two to the bench?
Yeah, like I would say, like Alonso is probably on his way out. Then that's probably signals the end because he's been linked with Barcelona. Although they didn't want to do the deal because Barcelona hijacked Conte. So I would say Alonso will probably be out before the end of the window. Yeah, Chilwell's an interesting one. Like I know he had the injury for a long time, but like he was a fairly top level like left back for Leicester, and that's why they bought him. And he doesn't seem to feature all that much even since the injury. He's had a fair share of games, but
I mean, he did play the first game.
yeah. But like you go when he came back from injury, it was still Alonso. I'd say was getting more games than Chilwell. But yeah, Cucurella seems to be hot property, doesn't he? Like wanted by Man City, and then Chelsea just come in and Man City wouldn't pay the 50, and then Chelsea just come in and slap 60 mil down on their desk and say, "Yeah, we'll take him." So yeah, I mean, Cucurella is probably a bit more attacking than Chilwell. Maybe a bit more, bit better in the creative side, getting forward and passing, but.
He doesn't particularly. He's not one of them left back that holds the ball and tries to take on like three or four people, and then he seems to just want to make the pass as quickly as possible. Big Steve did mention he probably has more pace than Chilwell and Alonso probably, but well, we'll see with time if Tuchel's buy proves us wrong. I mean, Cucurella is still a very good player. I was going to ask Mr. Hinder this question, but I'll leave it with you, Dunk, because I think Mr. Hinder will be a bit biased in this
What?
one. Yeah. I mean, you can answer after Dunk, though. But
I'll just answer it in half the time, JJ. Go on.
all right, okay, cool. Thank you. Good point. Good shot. Based on the passion and the way the managers went at each other today, who would you want to play for?
Oh, that's come on. That's a score draw. I like that as a neutral. There was a good bit of needle there and passion. Who started it? Was it Conte started it with the equaliser?
So the equalizer, Conte runs up to one of the managers, the Chelsea managers, and says something and celebrates in front of him. Tuchel, of course, came to defend his colleague, and then Chelsea goes to Rhys James goes. Tuchel runs across.
Yeah, nearly didn't add a Bayor, but like not.
Yeah,
in a slightly different scenario.
He didn't say anything to Conte, but he knew what he was doing. The game finishes. Hurricane equalizes. Conte doesn't. Conte just gives a big roar. Now game finishes. They want to shake hands. Conte wants to just shake his hand and walk away.
Yeah, I like it. And Tuchel said, "You need to look me in the eye."
And gives him the whole look me in the eye.
Yeah. No, I like it. Like, yeah, that we need a bit more of that in football. Bit of passion. I like it. So yeah, score draw for me. Like passionate managers, those two win passionate managers of the week.
Mr. Hinder?
No, I mean, Tuchel was out of order. To be fair, he was out of order. Like you can't be doing that. And I don't get me wrong. I like a bit of Vijay, but he just pulled him, and Conte's not going to back down. He wouldn't back down as a player.
He said, "Look me in the eye as a man."
Yeah, 100% fine. Like, but he pulled him back, didn't he? It was a bit of an aggressive pull back from that instance. I mean, I can't stand Tuchel. He just annoys me. His interview after was just annoying.
I told you this guy was going to be biased.
Look, Conte's a winner for me, and I think the fact that it was 2-2 at the end, and as I say, it will feel like a win for Spurs and a loss for Chelsea. So Conte definitely had the upper hand, and I would rather play crap and get a 2-2 draw than play really well and struggle. So yeah, still rather have that winning mentality of Conte.
Yep. I mean, we've had it all this weekend with MC Ten Hag looking like tactically we might one or two things might need to be done. You have the passion of Conte and of course Tuchel. You have Arteta looking, trust the process is working. And then we had a very good battle with two of the best midfielders at some point in the English Premier League, which was Aston Villa Everton. It was a very strange kind of game. A lot of the action happened in the last 10 minutes, but a much needed win for Villa. We all know how Big Dunk loves Frank Lampard. One of the things I want to mention about that game is Jacob Ramsey for Aston Villa. What exactly, what position does he play? Because I remember he started as a centre back and now he's playing left back and he can play in the middle. Looks like a good prospect. He was the best player on the day, man of the match. Is that testament to Frank Lampard? Sorry, that testament to Steven Gerrard giving younger players a chance? And of course, Lampard, of course, gave Gordon a chance. But is this a different approach? Is this Are they youngsters with that much talent that will come through Big Dunk? Do you see that as something that in the next few years we'll see a lot of youngsters coming through, especially with younger managers?
You'd hope so, yeah. And like when I was saying about Man U, like and people saying, I think Neil said like that's their best 11, or did you say that, JJ? Like give some youngsters a chance. You know, Man U must have some great youngsters in the academy. I know Milbury, or however you pronounce his name, got a couple of games towards the end of last season, and someone like Elanga. But at a club like Aston Villa, you're probably, I don't know, you're probably under pressure. Like if you get some bad results, but let's say they're a middle of the table team, there's a little bit less pressure, and you can afford to try out a couple of the youngsters. But yeah, Ramsey's been really good since Gerrard came in, and obviously like playing in similar positions. Gerrard's obviously able to give him some advice and nurture him through. But yeah, I think we're seeing a few of the more lower down mid-table clubs with youngsters getting a chance, and all for that, definitely.
Okay. Now, I was going to ask Dunk, but he will be biased in this case. I'm going to ask Mr. Hinder this time. Frank Lampard, panic?
No, I
Yes.
think it was a good battle, that game. It wasn't the game for the purists of watching the best football in the world. I don't think anyone was ever expecting that. I think Everton looked competitive this season to start with, than most of last season. They looked a bit lackluster and a little bit out, but they let their best striker go. They haven't really replaced him, but Unana came on. He looks half decent. There was only 10, 15 minutes in there. If they can get him with some more game time, he looks to link up with Gordon. Then I don't see that being a bad move for them. Villa, they didn't get Coutinho in the game. Not that they have to, but I feel like that's a key part of the game of getting him to create goals, not necessarily score them. And he went off. I think he went off injured with a niggle.
Good master class in terms of Bendia coming in and looking like controlling that game.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, Buendia was still a decent player, but you don't not sign Coutinho. You still sign Coutinho to help people like Buendia and the younger players to bring them up to what they've got. The tutelage is just important for the progress of other people. And he was a bargain as well, Coutinho. But yeah, Buendia was decent. Jacob Ramsey, I think he's been at Villa since he was 6. So it's nice to see one of their own going through and playing. So I think that he's in that point where he's finding a position. I know it sounds a little bit hard, but when some of the defenders and they can play left back, centre back, or in midfield, it's about cementing your position and finding out actually where's going to be good and where's best for me when I'm starting playing against the real competitive games. Because it's a big step up from playing reserves or just playing some League Cup opposed to playing in the Premier League week in, week out. So yeah, he looks decent. I think both teams there put up a good performance, especially in the last. It was an intriguing last 10 minutes of football, which could have swung Everton's way at some particular point. But it's nice to see, though, 2 young English managers as well of my generation of playing football in the Premier League and then competing against each other. And, that's quite a nice feeling because there has been a long time where you haven't had good prospects. So potentially you might get your Gareth Southgate replacement at some particular point there, Dunk, with maybe one of those 2 you'll be pleased about.
Maybe. Dog could be so happy, especially if Eddie Howe gets it. Speaking about Eddie Howe, Brighton, Newcastle, that was 0-0. And of course, Fulham, Mitrovic missed a penalty against Wolves, and that also ended 0-0. Man City gave a good welcome into Bournemouth, one of Big Dunk's team, even if they usually have a tough game against them.
That was really funny. I had 7-0 that prediction, and I was like 4. I was like, "Oh, we could be in for this." I don't. The stats. I watched Match of the Day yesterday. The stats. I think Haaland only touched the ball 8 times,
and nobody's talking about it like they would have done against Lukaku.
But the reason is because he set something up, right? And then he
Yeah.
should have been past that at the beginning to have got a goal. So in theory, he would have had 1 goal and 1 assist in that game had Foden
passed
got
the
his
ball.
head up, right? And I think Pep was really interesting afterwards because they interviewed and asked him about it. And Pep said that Foden will learn that he will always be there and he just needs to trust that he will be there. And that's really intelligent. And I know that sounds a bit silly, but they're kind of changing the way that the football's now played. They're going almost back to Aguero, but with a player that's younger and hungrier at this particular point in his career. And like you've got to pass to him. I think Ferguson was very similar when he bought strikers. You've got to pass to that player. He will score. That's what he's there for. He will just score you goals. Just trust him. I promise you, he will get goals. And I think that was quite interesting. He even come out, and I like his interviews. He comes out, he's honest, and he's just like, yeah, he should have passed. Like wherever he go, because I thought he thought, oh wow, if he'd scored, no one would have mentioned it, right? But he still should have passed because Haaland had an open goal. I think there was Mahrez next to him as well of an open goal.
I mean, watching that game, you can see that Haaland, even if he doesn't score, as you mentioned, it is, if you look at De Bruyne's goal, the defenders are too worried about the position Haaland was trying to get in, giving De Bruyne enough space to, bend it to the corner. So Haaland is adding enough games. And like I asked a few episodes ago, Liverpool and Man City seem like they're going back to the point man situation, where they have a point man that is responsible for almost everything and dictating the play from the front. So we shall see. Haaland is going to bring more things to, more things to the Man City team. Dunk, Bournemouth, good opening day of the season with a win. They came up short against the champions. People expected that. Leeds, though, your other team, doing really well, going 2-0 up against Southampton. You were on the WhatsApp group, you were saying, oop, looks like Ralph's days are numbered.
Yeah.
You jinxed that.
I
And
did, yeah.
Southampton actually almost went on to. It was a good game. Any of the teams would have won, but not a bad start still for Leeds, though.
Yeah, 4 points from the first 2 games. Again, like just looking at like if you compare it to last season, like still have to mention that some other pundits predicted Leeds for relegation. Ridiculous, But anyway, we compare it to last season, like 4 points first 2 games, and like it's an away draw. Like it's disappointing that we didn't get the win there. Marsh was criticised a bit for not making his subs earlier or reacting to the Southampton changes. So yeah, like I'd have been really happy with a win there. 2 wins to start the season, but 4 points, that's good. Like there's definitely a step in the right direction. There's definitely an improvement going on at Leeds, like from what we saw last season. So I'm optimistic for the season ahead that Leeds will not be anywhere near the relegation battle this season.
Very nice.
Bournemouth might be, but you'd expect to get smacked by Man City. And yeah, Haaland just looks like a savage. Like just the runs he's making and giving defenders hell when he's not on the ball. So yeah.
So just to be clear, you're pretty confident Leeds will not be in a relegation battle, but you're not quite sure if the same will be said again or for Bournemouth. Sorry,
Bournemouth will be down the bottom half of the table. I'm not going to back them for relegation, being a supporter, but like they'll be in the bottom half of the table around that area, but they'll survive.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have done a quick roundup of all the games, but what we're going to do now is we are going to go to our prediction league. And what we do is we pick up 4 games for the weekend coming, and then we predict. And we have a league that is going on our website. Please check it out at grassrootchats.com. At the moment, the Angry One is leading with 28 points. Big Steve is second with 18 points. Dunk is third with 15 points. Yours truly, the host, me, is fourth. And Neil is going to be relegated till we get another pundit or something.
I thought we were all on 15, no?
We are on 15.
Yeah.
He's just making it seem like
I get third place and you're getting relegated. I like it. That's good, JJ.
Well, so the games that we're picking...
goal difference.
The games that we're picking this coming weekend, Mr. Hinder, have you picked or should I pick?
Oh, you pick.
Okay.
You're back to hosting, right? Can I just ask Duncan one question about Rodrigo at Leeds?
Yeah, feel free.
Staying or going?
Rodrigo?
Well,
oh, he'll be staying.
Do you think do you think he'll stay? Or do you think someone will come in and sweep it at him at the last moment?
No. He'll be staying.
Here's my question to you, Mr. Hinder. Who do you think will come and take him before September 1st?
Everton.
No.
Big money. They'll come in.
At this moment in time, though, I mean,
You asked
Would
me
you
who? Just
would you
thinking.
advise Rodrigo to go to?
Yeah, it's still a bigger club.
Just a quick one on transfers. I'm impressed that Everton got Onana instead of West Ham, and they've had 2 defeats now. Like, not a great start to the season for them.
No, they were poor today as well.
Thank you very much. Before we go on to the fixtures, I actually almost forgot about that game. Thank you, Dunk. Nottingham getting their first win in the Premier League. You know,
Woo!
after 23 years of not playing Premier League football. I remember Neil saying that when the last time Forest were in the league, he had a Walkman or
This
used to walk.
man.
This man, I used to work in insurance. A scuff shot from Jesse Lingard before Taiwo puts it in. And then West Ham looks like they started playing. I have 2 questions about West Ham. 2 questions. One, Mr. Hinder, that was a terrible penalty. Yes or no? And please don't start telling me about if the keeper saves it, then it was a great save. That was a terrible penalty. Yes or no?
I said before, all penalty misses are terrible.
But
No, they are. They're all terrible. You were like, no, that was a really good penalty. Keeper made a great save. I'm like, no.
Yes,
if I haven't scored that penalty, it's a terrible penalty, regardless of what happens. It was a terrible pen.
I disagree with that.
Thank
you
you
can
very
play
much,
great
Dunk.
pens where the goalie can make a fantastic save, or you can play poorly positioned pens where it's easy for the keeper. You're talking nonsense, Hinder.
It's 12 yards out. You should score. End of. Like, it was a poor pen.
Of course you should score, but there's the small matter of quite a good goalkeeper in between the posts that could save it.
But I mean, there is, but I would still expect a Premier League player to score from 12 yards against any keeper. They're not rubbish players. It's not like me going up and then trying to kick. And
I think you're getting confused here. Like some of those comments you make about scoring goals. Do you think it's you in goal? Because I'm pretty sure most Premier League keepers have got quite more advanced skill set than yourself now.
Well, I mean, I really hope they have, because if they haven't, we've got apart from De Gea today, I think we've got some major problems.
And my next question again, West Ham, is how have they managed to keep Declan Rice, Big Dunk?
It sounds like they priced him out the market and they've made some kind of arrangement with him to keep him for another year. So we could possibly see him on the way out next year. But yeah, definitely, like you would expect, like when we talk about transfers, Man U would have been prime for Declan Rice, like in the transfer window. Maybe Man City did go for him, but again, it sounds like they're priced out. If you can get Calvin Phillips for 45 or Declan Rice for 100, you'd probably go with Calvin Phillips for 45.
So they riced him out.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to jump to our prediction league. As I said, the Angry One is leading, Big Steve second, and Dunk is third. I'm fourth. Neil is last. Even if we all have the same points.
There's something fishy though, because the Angry One's leading, but he's not been on any shows. I reckon he's getting his missus to do it or something like that, or his kids.
You never know. So the games that we're looking at for next weekend, we are going to go for so-called smaller teams, and concentrating on the teams that have just come up. So the first game we're going to look at is Everton Nottingham Forest. Mr. Hinder.
3-0 Everton.
3-0 Everton. You sure?
Yeah, 3-0 Everton.
So Nottingham not impressing you?
Nah, I mean they're getting on. They played all right today. Henderson made a quality penalty save, but on the whole, I don't think they're Everton good. I think West Ham were very poor today. I think West Ham didn't play until the second half. They'd already thought they'd won the match. That was the problem in that one.
All right, Big Dunk.
Possible relegation scrap there. We'll go for a 1-1.
You want it to be a relegation scrap?
Yeah,
to keep
you're damn right. I want it to be a relegation scrap.
Draw anyone below Leeds and Bournemouth, right?
Okay. Fulham Brentford, Mr. Hinder.
You got to fancy Brentford in that vein of form. Ivan Toney's pass was fantastic for that goal. Mitrovic can't take penalties, so let's go with 2-0 Brentford.
2-0 Brentford, okay. And Big Dunk?
Yeah, Brentford aren't a top 4 team and they're not going to play like that every week. And I think Fulham have been all right so far. Played well against Liverpool. Was it 0-0 against Wolves? I'm going to go completely opposite of Neil. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Fulham.
Just to interject there, we're 2 games into the season. Brentford are a top 4 team. They're currently third.
Leeds are fifth.
Yep. Still not top four, though.
Speaking about Leeds,
Oh, God, tell you what, man.
speaking
You
about
must be
Leeds,
really struggling bad back this season picking up that league.
Leeds versus Chelsea. Mr. Hinder.
Leeds v Chelsea. Let's go with 2-2.
Hmm?
2-2.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 goals for Leeds, 2 goals
How
for
on
Chelsea.
earth did you pick the exact score I was going to go with?
Oh, because
How does he do that?
No,
I
Big
think you
Steve. Big Steve usually does that to you. Mr. Hinder is the one that goes around and says 7-0 and 9-1.
Oh,
and
it
all
was
that.
4-0. It wasn't far off. Wasn't
Okay.
what Duncan thought they'd put up a brave face. Jesus, they folded.
All right. And Big Dunk.
Fine, reverse psychology then. 2-1 Chelsea.
You should have gone with 2-0 the other way around.
That's all right. We'll win like 3-2, so I'll still get the 2 points for the Chelsea goals.
And the last game to be added to our prediction league. Bournemouth v Arsenal. Mr. Big Dunk.
Ooh. Well, okay, let's just keep it on the theme of reverse psychology this week. 2-1 Arsenal.
Okay. And Mr. Hinder.
Let's go 5-0 Arsenal.
Here we go. I told you guys. He can't resist. It must be one of those scorelines.
You just know that they're going to be that poor, Bournemouth, that day, and Arsenal will be that good, and then that'll petter off for both teams.
I mean, I was going to ask Man United Liverpool, but there's no point because Mr. Hinder will probably say 15-0.
I mean, it might well be. If they play like they did today, it could be.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
De Gea first scorer.
Probably. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Trick of Boggies.
We have gone through the Premier League today and the talking points, Man United problems, Arteta doing great for Arsenal, the passion of the managers between Chelsea and Tottenham. A good roundup of the other games and our predictions, spoken about certain players. Fortunately, Big Steve and the Angry One couldn't make it this week, but hopefully we should have them back for next week. Thank you very much, Mr. Hinder, Big Dunk. After 30 years of the Premier League being alive, we have seen one of the big teams, or the so-called big teams, actually the biggest team in England with the most Premier League wins, being crushed with structure and bad organisation.
You know football started before the Premier League, right, JJ? You know that.
Well, how many titles does Man United have?
I wouldn't waste my time keeping track of that now.
Okay, let's talk about your time and how many Leeds have.
We've got one on Wednesday.
Yeah, what for Leeds? Is it 2 for Leeds? No, 2 or 3.
The man doesn't even know. Well, it's thank you from Big Dunk.
Thanks for watching, guys.
And of course, thank you and goodbye from Mr. Hinder.
Thank you and goodbye.
Yep, I have a week to hopefully pray and believe that something can actually happen between Man United and Liverpool, but I will not hold my breath. Ladies and gentlemen, till next time, more things.